Meseches Nedarim Daf Chaf Dalid contains one Mishnah near the end of the Daf. The majority of the Daf is discussing the question the Gemara asked at the end of Daf Chaf Gimel. The Gemara is going to try to bring 5 proofs to resolve that question. And then we get to our next Mishnah, which discusses Nidrei Havai, exaggerated Nedarim or nonsense Nedarim. And the Gemara is going to explain the 2 types of Nedarim and what they are and why they are not valid. So let's begin. The Gemara asks a question at the bottom of Daf Chaf Gimel. The Gemara asks, we saw a halacha of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. We want to know if the Chachamim disagree, and if they do disagree, with whom is the halacha? What was the halacha that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov said? He included another case in the list of cases that count as Nidrei Ziruzin. Nidrei Ziruzin is where somebody makes a neder because he's trying to get somebody else to do something, and it's not a valid neder because he doesn't really mean it. So the one example which we saw in the beginning of the parak, which everybody agrees to, is that you have 2 people arguing over the price, and they each make a neder. They're not going to budge from their position. So we assume they didn't mean it, and they were willing to budge. They were just trying to make the other guy budge. Now, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov brings another example, and that's where Reuven wanted to invite Shimon to eat a suda with him. Shimon didn't want to go, so Reuven said, if you don't come and eat with me, I am going to aser you to have enough from any of my things. So that, again, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that he's also trying to convince the guy to come, and since he's only trying to convince him, he doesn't really mean to aser him, so it's just Nidrei Ziruzin, and it doesn't count. And the question is, do the Chachamim agree? Do the Chachamim say no? In the case where you're bargaining, we know you're trying to get the guy to move from his position, but you didn't really mean it, and you're willing to agree to something slightly off the position that you staked out. Over here, though, he's trying to get him to come. Maybe he really means to aser him with Nedarim. So do the Rabbanan and disagree with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and say that it's a valid neder or not. So the Gemara is going to try to bring a few proofs. So the Gemara's first proof is from a Mishnah where somebody says that if you don't take a gift from me for your son of a core of wheat and 2 barrels of wine, now saying for your son is a way of saying for him, it's just respectful, but he's saying if you don't want to take the gift, I'm going to aser that I am not going to get any hana from you. Now, so here he's making a neder, but the pashtus, the reason he's trying to make the neder is because he's trying to convince the other guy to accept it. Now, this is pretty similar to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov's case. So Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov would have to paskin, this is Nidrei Ziruzin, and it doesn't count. It's void. However, this Mishnah rules that it is good, but the Mishnah, it's a valid neder. However, the Mishnah says the guy who made the neder could get out of it, because the person who refused to accept it, he could still refuse to accept, which would mean that the neder should hit. He could refuse to accept the gift, but he could say, the whole reason you wanted me to take the gift from you is because you wanted to be mechabed me. So this is what's mechabed me. I'm being mechubed by not accepting the gift. I hold son metonasiach. I don't want to take the gift. So therefore, you're fulfilling what your real goal was. Therefore, he could get out of it. However, the neder in and of itself is a valid neder. This can't be Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. That means that somebody must argue. So you see that the Chachamim argue, and this Mishnah is the Chacham. So the Mishnah says, no, this really is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. In this case, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov agrees, and that's because this guy is not trying to convince the other guy to accept the gift. He's not trying to just make a neder, I'm going to aser for myself, I'm going to aser all your things on me if you don't accept my gift. He really doesn't want to take the other guy's things if he doesn't take the gift. Because he says, what kind of business is this? Am I a dog that a dog only takes and he never gives? Some of the Rishonim add that he must have gotten something from this person in the past. They're saying, I took from you, you don't want to take from me, so then I'm not taking from you anymore, because you're refusing to accept from me, I don't want to accept from you. It's not like the case in our Mishnah where he's trying to invite the guy, and if he refuses to come, then he says, if you don't take from me, then I'm going to aser all my stuff from you. That's not there. He's saying it's both he wants him to take from him, and if not, he's going to aser from him. It's the same person, the same way is going to be also. Here he's saying, if you don't take, I'm not taking. It's the opposite effect. So therefore, this is not like our Mishnah, and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov would agree to this as well. And the more second proof is very similar. It's the exact reverse of this case. This is where somebody says, I want you to give me a gift, otherwise I'm going to aser all my things on you. This is, if you don't give a gift for my son, then I'm going to aser you can't have any enough from me. So again, it's Nidrei Ziruzin. It's trying, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, it should be Nidrei Ziruzin. He's trying to convince him to do something, and therefore it should be void. However, this Mishnah Pasuk said it is valid, except that he could get out of it. And the way he could get out of it is by saying, I consider it as if I received the gift. The whole thing that he wanted from him was a gift. He could say, I consider it as if I got the gift. So therefore, you don't have to worry about the neder anymore. However, The Mishnah again clearly holds that it is in and of itself is a valid neder, and it's not neder zeruzin, so it doesn't fit with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So somebody must argue on Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So the Gemara answers again, no, this could be Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov agrees that this type of neder zeruzin is no good. It's not a neder zeruzin, meaning it's a valid neder, and the reason is because again it's opposite here. This guy would be saying, "What am I, a king that you take from me, and I don't get anything in return?" Again, some Rishonim add that he must have given him something in the past. Now he wants him to give him something in exchange. He's refusing, so he says, if you don't give me something, then you're never going to be able to have any enough from me ever again. And he's saying it's not a one-way street, or it's a two-way street. Again, the neder is on the opposite direction as to what he's trying to convince him, not the same direction. He's saying, if you don't give me, I'm answering on you. Not like our Mishnah where he said, if you don't take from me, then I'm going to answer on you. Then I'm going to answer you from taking from me in the future. So therefore, again, it's not the same as before. And although Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov calls it Mishnah Neder Zeruzin, here he could agree that this is not Neder Zeruzin and it's a valid Neder. The Gemara now goes to its third proof, and this is a Mishnah coming up, where the Mishnah discusses Nidri Eintin. That's if somebody had a Neder that he was Mekayim, it was based on a condition on a Tanai, and he fulfilled the condition against his will, he wasn't able to void it. So the case over there is, again, it's implied that someone invited someone over, and then he said, if you're not going to come, I'm going to make a neder against you. And that person tried to come, but he was blocked by illness. He was sick, his son was sick, or there was a flooding river, he couldn't get across, or whatever it is, he was stopped from fulfilling what he was asked to do. And again, this is an example of an Nidei Einstein, and it's not valid because it's not his fault that he couldn't fulfill the condition. However, the Gemara's point is that why should the neder, forgetting the Einis, why should the neder work at all? The person who made the neder was trying to convince him to come to a feast that he invited him to. And he made a neder to say that if you don't come, then I'm going to aser hana on you from all my things. So that's exactly the case of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. And here we see that if not leaving the sugya of Einstein aside, the neder is valid. So obviously somebody argues on Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and holds that it is a valid neder if you make a neder in that way. So the Gemara answers, no, you got it wrong. You got the case wrong. It's not that the inviter invited the invitee, and he said, if you don't come, I'm going to ask you and all my things. It's that the invitee invited himself over. He came to him and he said, will you please invite me for supper? And the guy said, sure, I'll invite you for supper. As a matter of fact, I'm going to invite you very emphatically. If you don't come, I'm going to ask you hano. So you see, he's clearly not Nidrei Zeruzin because the guy wanted to come. He's the one who brought it up in the first place. So the only thing that it is a just way of showing emphatic willingness to invite him, and therefore it's not Nidrei Zeruzin, and it's valid, and there's no reason that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov would have a problem with it. The Gemara now brings its fourth raya, and this is from a brisa which continues based off our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, we saw the case where Reuben invites Shimon, and he says, Shimon, if you don't come to me, I'm going to ask you having any hana for me. Here, this brisa says, in addition to that, even greater than that, if Reuben says to Shimon, if you don't come to me, I'm going to ask my hana on you. So, therefore, it's the reverse case. It's not quite the same. But in this case, he invited him. He said, if you don't come to me and have hot bread and hot drink, then I'm going to ask her. And that person was Makman. They said, no, I'm not going to have it. I'm going to ask her right back on you. So here, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says it's Nidrei Zeruzin. It doesn't count. He's just trying to force him to come. And here the brisa says explicitly that the Chachamim disagree. When it says, not only that they disagree, it says that these are also Nidrei Zeruzin, and the Chachamim disagree. So the Gemara wants to say, if the Chachamim are disagreeing, and we said these are also, even these are Nidrei Zeruzin, Af Elu, even these are Nidrei Zeruzin, and the Chachamim disagree, obviously they are not agreeing on both. They're not agreeing on the first case, which is the Mishnah we had before, the classic case of the invitee, and this case, which is meant to add on to that. So the Gemara, according to one Girsa, rejects and says, no, the Chachamim are only arguing on the second case. According to the other one, the Gemara accepts the proof and does not reject it. Either way, the Gemara then says, what is the halacha? So the Gemara brings Rav Huna says the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, and Rav Bar Abba, who also says that halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. We now begin the next Mishnah, which discusses Nidrei Havai, which are nonsensical Nedarim. So the Mishnah says two examples of a Nidrei Havai. One is if someone says, Kainam, if I didn't see on the road as many as the Oilei Mitzrayim, or I didn't see like the Oilei Mitzrayim, meaning the number of people came out of Mitzrayim, which is about 3 million people. That's clearly an exaggeration. Maybe there were a lot of people on the road, but there weren't 3 million. The second example is if he says, if I didn't see a snake that looked like the beam of an olive press. Now the Ran says these are two different types of nonsensical Nedarim. The first one is a wild exaggeration, but he meant to say, I saw a lot of people. It didn't literally mean like the number who are Olam Mitzrayim, just an expression. The second one, though, is not true. It's a falsehood. There is no way a snake, it's not an exaggeration to say that a snake looked like the beam. It is impossible. The beam had ridges on it, and there's no snake like that. It's just a falsehood. So the Mishnah Paskins, those two types of things are called Nidrei Havai, and they're not Chal and Neder at all. So now the Gemara begins, and the Gemara says, according to our Girsa, the Gemara says, Nidrei Havai are not Chal, but Shvuos Havai are Chal, and they do create an Isser. Now, when we say that it's Asr, there's two potential meanings there. Either that it Asrs fruits, if you make a Shvu in the same way, it works, or that it's Asr to say such a Neder because you're violating the halacha of not swearing falsely, and you get malchus for that. There is no Isser to make a Neder falsely. There is an Isser to make a Shvu falsely. Now, the Gemara asks what is the case exactly. When we say that there's such a thing as a Shvuos Havai, and that it is also, what does it mean? So the Gemara is going to try three options. So the Gemara first quotes, not anyone's name. The Gemara says, the first attempt is that somebody says, I swear if I didn't see on the road people like the Oilei Mitzrayim. So the Gemara says that's meaningless. He didn't swear to anything. What was he saying? He swear I didn't see, he didn't say anything. So that's not a shvua. So that can't be what it is. So Rava said, so Abaye said, he says, I swear I saw on the soil like the Oilei Mitzrayim. So Rava says, to Abaye, that is an exaggerated shvua. He swore to something false. Well, what's the chiddush that's also? Of course it is. He swore to something that's not true. Second of all, it doesn't match. When our Mishnah said that there's no Nedarim, and the Gemara said that there are shvuos, it has to be the same kind. These are two totally different things. He's not answering anything. He's just swearing to a fact, which is not true. Therefore, the Rava gives a different shot. Rava says where he's saying, I'm answering fruits on myself with a shvua, swearing I'm not going to eat fruits on the condition if I didn't see on this road like the Oilei Mitzrayim. Now, obviously, he did not see on the road like the Oilei Mitzrayim. So, in a neder, we say that it's an exaggeration and the neder works. In a shvua, though, we say you swore to something which is not true, and therefore you have to keep the shvua was based on, the shvua was going to hit if you didn't see like the Oilei Mitzrayim. You obviously did not see like the Oilei Mitzrayim, therefore the shvua is chal, and you have to keep it. So the Gemara asks, how do you know he didn't see like Oilei Mitzrayim? Maybe he saw an ant colony. He named the ant colony Oilei Mitzrayim, and he saw it on the road. So he did see Oilei Mitzrayim. So the Gemara says, no. A shvua has to be the way people talk. It's not the normal way people talk. No one else calls that Oilei Mitzrayim, and therefore it is 100% violation, and it's not what he said, and the neder is chal. The shvua is chal.